Hi guys, in today's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we've got the Managing Director of Armstrong Gardens and Landscapes, Fraser Armstrong, who's going to tell us how he's built a team from 0 up to 17 people in just a few years, and also how he's dominating the landscaping world through virtual reality and awesome design and technology. Welcome on, Fraser, thanks for coming along.
No problem at all, thanks for having me.
I always start with just seeing, so how did you get into the trade?
How did I get into the trade? So my background isn't really, a really relevant trade to what I'm doing now. So I left school when I was 16, started off doing 2 weeks of 5th year, and then decided school's not for me and decided to leave. From there, I then went and did a few jobs, kind of stacking shelves, did a bit of painting and decorating, and then decided I need to get a bit of a skill under my belt. So I applied for an apprenticeship being a machinist down in Wiltshire. So went away and did a 3-year apprenticeship doing that. So working on lathes and mills, manual and CNC, did some CAD and things like that. So I suppose that's my trade, although it's not particularly relevant to landscaping and what we're doing now. So that's my trade.
Would have been an eye for detail though, all that stuff, like it's obviously
absolutely
equipped you with some of that.
Yeah, so working to really, really small tolerances and things like that. And a lot of the design work on the CAD is really relevant to what we do now. So some really good skills there, although perhaps not exactly what I'm kind of doing in business now. So that was how I got my sort of trade background. Then from there, after I finished that apprenticeship, I moved back up to Edinburgh and did again a couple different jobs. So I worked in recruitment for a while, which was really good. Learned some great kind of interpersonal skills and things there. And then just by chance really started working in construction for a general construction business, just doing labouring, and started doing some work outside, some pointing and laying paving, and so really just by chance started doing that kind of work. And then from there, really, I just decided that, kind of had enough working for somebody else and decided to go out my own and just starting off doing really small landscaping and gardening jobs. So that's kind of how that got started, yeah.
That's good. So the sort of transition between, so would you say like the recruitment and like the sort of sales side, has that helped you then maybe like speaking to customers and having the confidence to actually, like when you go out to see like an appointment and see if they're wanting to get their landscaping done or whatever, has that helped? Absolutely.
Well, that was a big part of that job, is you're making a lot of phone calls and going out to meet people that you've not met before. So that turned out to be really, really relevant for what we're doing now, because that's to this day a huge part of my job, is going out and meeting potential customers and discussing what their needs and wants and things are. So that's been really valuable actually, even though it's a kind of completely different business.
It's good though. It's just another string to the bow as such, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what about then? Like where are you guys at now then with the landscaping business? How's that moved from, you started off with the small jobs you were saying and wanted to give it a go? How's that grown now? That was 2019 you started.
Yep.
2022 now. What's the kind of growth been like?
So I kind of started doing some own jobs a little bit before then, but we actually launched the business in July 2019, and that was just myself for at that point for again a couple months, and we started bringing people on, and going from, well, started off with just a car actually, and then got our first van and our second van and brought more staff on, and now we've got 17 members of staff, including myself, and that's with 2 office staff as well, with our office manager and operations manager. So it's been quite a busy couple of years.
Good growth in quite a short space of time as well. What was the thinking behind that then? Because it's a lot of people, like, they maybe start off in the trades, they do it on their own for a while. They sometimes maybe pull in an apprentice or a labourer, but it looks like you've kind of just got in and just started adding the staff in quite quick. How was that? Yeah. Was that always your plan, or?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to start a business, not just kind of work for myself. So that was always kind of the plan, but there's never been really a grand plan as such where we say we're going to employ 5 people this year, 10 people this year. It's really been, initially we were getting lots of inquiries in and lots of work. So we thought, right, we need to get somebody else on. And then really from there, it's been the same thing. As we've got busier, we need to bring more people on. As we've got more complex jobs, we need to bring on more skilled staff with, you know, a lot more experience. We've got lots of joinery work coming in, so now we've got a joinery team. So it's really been, as the needs of the business have changed, the business has kind of grown and changed with them.
Yeah. And what about apprenticeships? Is that something that you can offer through your businesses?
Yeah, so we actually took on an apprentice. When was that? It was last year. Last year, sort of towards the end of the year, we brought a joinery apprentice on. So we got kind of registered with CITB, and he's now started college and things like that. And it's been brilliant, actually. Been really good. He's doing really well, learning lots, and it's really helpful for the tradesmen he's working with as well. So yeah, it's been great.
Good. And what about, so if you were to give anybody any advice who was maybe going to look to get into the trade, obviously you never quite started there in the way that you have now and took it that way, what would your sort of advice maybe be to them?
Do it. You know, it's there's a massive issue with supply and demand with skilled people, you know, and if you get ahead of that now and go and get yourself a lifetime valuable skill, you'll have work forever, you know. Really rewarding job as well. Whenever everybody goes home at the end of the day, you know that you've achieved something. You're not just sitting behind a desk, and also you can get paid really well. You know, you don't need to go to university to earn a good income. The trades will kind of look after you. So I'd urge any young people to certainly consider it and look and see what the options are and what trade might, you know, interest them as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And then probably again just a bit of advice on maybe other business owners that's not people that's in the trade. Sorry. They may be looking to start up sort of in business.
Yeah.
What would your advice on that be?
Yeah, again, the same, you know, go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Aye.
Yeah, give it a shot. When it's just yourself, you know, the risk is pretty low. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You're a tradesman, like we're saying, you've got a skill, you'll always be able to find another job. But yeah, give it a shot. And, you know, it's not for everyone, but some people might be surprised about, you know, what they can kind of accomplish if they give it a go and where it can go. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have thought in 2019 that in 2022 we'd have, you know, all these guys in vans and things like that. So yeah, you know, give it a chance.
And is that the approach you would like? That's similar to myself. That's what I've done. I've grew it to like sort of having quite a big team and office staff and stuff, and you've done similar. Is that the route you would be saying? Like, if you come into the trades, do you think they should kind of come in with that almost like the end goal in mind, so to speak? Like,
I mean, I think it's probably different for everyone. I'm sure there's lots of people that do really well for themselves, earn a great living, that's maybe just them or somebody else, and that are really happy. And I think that's really valuable for the industry to have, you know, people like that as well. But at the same time, yeah, you know, I'm sure lots of people who'd be more than capable of building a decent sized business, and you'll probably find it out when you get started, you know.
What would you say is driving you then? What's driving you? Because you've kind of got in and you've said just go for it. That's your advice to others, and that's obviously been your advice to yourself, I'd imagine. So what is that drive that's making you want to keep pushing on there?
I mean, I've always been interested in business, you know, before I had a business. So it's always been something I've wanted to do. So I suppose it's just the enjoyment of actually building something, growing something, you know, building a brand, and just really enjoy what I do, you know, and enjoy pushing that forward and progressing. On
that, like, what's your view on like building a brand, building a culture within the business? Like, do you see? I take it like you see that really as an importance to that.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not something that you're really aware of right at the start, and it certainly wasn't something we were kind of trying to do when we first started out. It was more right, get working, complete the projects, you know. But we really noticed how important it is, especially with staff, the culture. So over the last, I would say, year, that's been a big push for us, is trying to, you know, build a culture of people being, you know, positive and accountable and stuff at work, and that's, I would say, probably the main things for, you know, why the business done so well in the last year, is because the staff are happy and they're motivated and they want to be at work, you know, and that's really the culture. And as soon as you get somebody new on in the business as well, that they can absorb that straight away. So I think it's really important. But the earlier on, when starting a business, you can kind of be aware of that and try to build your brand and culture, I think the better.
And what kind of things do you do? Like, what drives that culture, would you say? What kind of things do you do to kind of get that team kind of all on board?
So we have regular meetings where we discuss how everybody's getting on and things like that. And we've also got our kind of company values, which are on a big laminated board in our unit, and we go over them regularly. Another thing's the kind of above and below the line principles. We've done a lot of work on that, and we regularly discuss that and communicate that with the guys. And I suppose myself and Owen, our operations manager, us trying to kind of hold ourselves to these standards, and it's just really being constantly aware of it and constantly communicating these things.
It's good even just having it there. Like, some companies didn't even get to the point where they've got the values up or they've got the wee bits and bobs in places like that. So actually just getting to that point and having an awareness, I guess that's where it does all start, is bringing the initial awareness and then just trying to live and breathe them values. We're quite big on that as well, but it's almost like a never-ending task to just keep promoting it to obviously the team and the wider community, and saying this is who we are and this is what we're trying to achieve, and getting people on board with that, I guess.
And at the start it is, it can be a bit cheesy, you always think, values, what are they all about? But there really is something to it, and even at the start when you're trying to introduce these things, if it does seem a little bit cheesy and uncomfortable, sitting down with the team and saying, look, here's our company values, over time though, it does start to kind of embed into the business. And
a lot of the time it's probably like, that's for big companies, like things like that. But if you want to be a big company and you want to go on and be that, then you've probably got to act that for the outset and start putting these things in place. And it can be a bit uncomfortable. I would agree with you with that. It's you're trying to say to people, look, this is what we do and this is what we're about, and actually just bringing that sort of vision all together, so that it gives the team something to follow as well, if they know sort of where you're going and how you're trying to act and behave to get to the next level as a company.
That's everyone on the same page, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And did you guys have a stage where you sort of sat down and thought, we need to implement some company values? Was there like a kind of set time for you doing it, or did it just evolve? We sort
of always had them there, like they were in my head basically, and then I did an exercise where I looked across all the team members we had at the time. We maybe only had like half a dozen possibly at the time, and I looked at everybody and initially I was like, they're all hard-working guys and I'm really hard-working, so like our first value was like hard work. And then I was like, I trust all of these guys and I want to be really trustworthy to the community and the customers that we're serving and my team, and then that's how we added that in. And we basically went through like the team that we had, and at that time when it was small, it's really easy to like keep on top of everything. So the values are like directly probably the owner's values, I would say, to a point. And then that was really how we did that. And we went through various exercises like that. And then now to the point where we've got sort of maybe just close on 30 staff now, the values are up and there's a more like an induction process. So that it's like when people come in, we've got basically like booklets to say, that's the company values, this is the vision, this is where we're going. And like yourself, we have monthly team meetings where we'll explain that to them, do employee of the month, bit of culture there, get some pizzas in and juice and that, and just get everybody kind of all on board and say, like, remember, this is where we're going. And just the more you can do it, the better. It's easy to probably talk about it and say, like, because we did put the company values on the wall, but that doesn't mean you've done anything. It's actually then like, can you stand at a team meeting and then ask the audience, like your full team, like, who knows the company values? Would they all know it? Because if they don't, then it doesn't really mean anything, probably. But I think the first stage is, like we spoke about there, it's bringing an awareness to that, and then just like doing the things that bring it into play day in, day out. And as you grow, you're then obviously trying to inject it right from the beginning, because it's no like myself or you can't really be out on every single site at all times, so you've got to get it from the top all the way down and get it channeled into every new member of staff that comes in. And
I suppose it's changing the values from just being buzzwords, which is what it kind of is initially, sort of corporate sort of buzzwords, to actually what do these things mean and how do they relate to what we're doing on sites
Yeah.
on a kind of daily basis.
Sometimes adding values as well, like the sort of a wee bit of a journey we're going through now is maybe looking to add a couple of new values that just weren't in there, and it's like you didn't just stick them on the wall either. You're like, will this be meaningful? Will it drive change within the business? Is that where we need to get to the next point? So it's all wee things like that. So yep. And then for yourself, what would you say it is that's setting you apart from other landscapers and gardeners? Like what's I know you're quite big on technology, so I'm quite keen to hear about
that. Yeah. So that is certainly a really big thing for us, and it has been from the start. And I kind of mentioned a bit of my background, with kind of CAD software, and that's been something right from the offset that we've always done is designs and visualizations. They started off quite basic, just sort of 2Ds, and we've then kind of moved on from that. So moved from 2Ds to 3Ds. From 3D designs, we then moved into doing like photorealistic renders, which are really pretty amazing for visualizing what your garden's going to look like. From there, we can do things like actually taking a photograph of the customer's house and popping that into the render. So essentially, you could be standing in the garden and looking at exactly what the finished product will look like. And most recently, which I think is probably the most exciting, is we can now do virtual reality. So people can come into our showroom, they can pop the headset on, they can look around and see and walk around, what their garden will look like, which the feedback's been really, really good for that, and it's pretty different. I mean, I don't think there's any other landscaping businesses in Edinburgh or surrounding areas that are doing that. So I'd say that's something that kind of sets us apart.
Yeah, brilliant. I need to get a go on that.
Aye, definitely.
No, that's great. And what about, so if you were to, has there ever been a time where you would say, I know it's been quite a short journey so far, but you've went quite far already. Has there ever been a time where you just felt like giving up or anything? What would your advice be to maybe any business owners that's watching this that's struggling a bit? Like, what would you advise on there?
I mean, be prepared, because there's going to be a lot of problems and a lot of issues constantly. I would say, so it's not going to be an easy ride. And I suppose it's just, I've always thought I've not got a plan B. This is plan A, and it's going to work. And no matter what the issues are, we'll work through them. So I think you need to have your mind set on, you're going to start this business, you're going to grow it, and whatever happens, you're going to kind of work through that. Because we've had issues from day one up till now, and I'm sure that'll be the case kind of forever. So I think you've got to have quite a strong mind and be prepared and willing to deal with problems. Because you get more in business than I think pretty much anything else. So I'm sure you'll experience much of the same.
I'm relating to you there. Definitely. And what about, so what does the future hold for you? You've done a lot in business already, so what does the future hold?
A lot more growth. We've got some big plans. So we do a lot of domestic work at the moment. This year we're looking to move into doing some more commercial contracts and bigger jobs, and expanding the team, and again improving what we do, and just much of the same. Just more growth, more improvement, pushing the technology even further. Just kind of onwards and upwards throughout the business, I suppose.
So have you got any cool stories in the trade then?
I suppose there's probably quite a funny story from when we started out, which kind of shows the change from then till now. So this was actually before 2019, before we officially started the business, but when I started kind of doing jobs myself. So our first vehicle was a 2006 Mini. I'm quite a big guy, so it's a bit of a nightmare getting in and out of that as it is, and trying to store tools and do jobs. It was quite tricky. So I used to turn up to jobs and have the lawnmower on the front seat, and rakes and shovels going from the boot, through to where the gearbox was, and kind of pulling up and maybe just parking just round the side of the drive, as you're getting out to do the job. So that's, I suppose, where we started from, and it was quite entertaining, but great fun, So yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, that was a pleasure, mate. Great to have you on. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. Cheers. Thank you.